Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Bring the draft work for the strategic plan, and with one decision point left, and hoping to move forward with this in principle. So I think we'll just get started and launch right in. When we look at strategic planning, we think about it just in terms of definition. It's a way to define a strategy. It helps facilitate decision making and allocating of resources. It really assists you as a council in developing goals, objectives, and action plans, and certainly administration, carrying those out, measuring success over time. And as we have done over the past year, is reviewing that plan periodically to ensure that it aligns with current issues, challenges, and reality. So we've had the opportunity to do all of that. The process that we've used, next slide please, is that back in February, believe it or not, the StratCorp presentation looking at definition of strategic planning and trends. We had an opportunity to work with the senior management team. That's the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and a lot of discussion around that. We had the council strategic planning session number 1, where we looked at that SWOT, added to it, looked at the values, created those, and then a second session to where we created a draft vision, mission, and strategic priorities. So all of that culminates into some forward thinking and proactive activities that will help guide you into the future. So I'm going to start with the values, which you have already seen, but we want to flow through the entire strategic plan. So this will be something that you have seen in our previous session. So the next slide outlines the 6 values that we landed on together. I'll just read the values out. I know you've had this in advance and you've seen this before, so what it means, I'll just leave that for you to kind of read through as I go. But the values are sustainability, excellence, equity, diversity, and inclusion, accountability, teamwork, and integrity. And with these values, these are the beliefs that have guided the work that we've done so far and the work that you will be doing in the future through your strategic directions and goals. So I'll just give you a minute to kind of read through those. And then we can move to the vision. So this is a bit of a decision point. As I mentioned, there were 3 vision statements created out of our work together, and we've landed now on these 2. So tonight, Your Worship, we will need to hopefully come up with a decision on which way we'd like to go with this. The first is proud of the past, confident in the future, a community for everyone, or Tecumseh, a sustainable community where everyone shares in the town's prosperity. I don't. Keep going. Okay, we're coming back to that. Got it. All right. We'll go now to the mission, working together for sustainable community growth and service delivery to support an exceptional quality of life. So let's now focus on the strategic priorities. These are, as you recall, originally there were 6, and now we were able to look at this and come up with 3 that kind of encompassed all of the future directions and the activities that you'd like to see moving forward. So sustainable growth is the first, achieving prosperity in a livable community. Community health and inclusion, that's to integrate community health and inclusion into our places and spaces and everything we do. And then service experience, enhance the experience of Team Tecumseh and our citizens through responsive and respectful service. So with those 3 priorities, we were able to come up with some goals that support that, and then further actions, which are really the operationalization or the forward movement that will help to achieve the goals. So on the next slide, we'll first look at sustainable growth. Next slide. So, oh, sorry, that was my fault. Back, if you go back one. So if we look at sustainable growth, we have increased the population of Tecumseh through new housing supply. And that's looking, of course, at new housing, the Hamlet secondary plan, pursuing available funding and partnerships, creating opportunities for business and industrial growth. That's looking at local and regional economic development, the life cycle program, supportive relationships and partnerships. Maintaining Tecumseh as a livable community, and that is looking at a lot of the current studies and plans and policy for sustainable development that have been ongoing for the past few years. And finally, ensuring fiscal sustainability while investing in infrastructure. And that's looking at a 5-year capital plan, the capital amenities plan, the town's asset management plan. So those are some of the actions that will be there. So now we'll look at the next slide, and that's community health and inclusion, where the goals look at enhancing those public spaces to make the town accessible for everyone. And that's really looking at partners for wellness and recreation hub, community services and programming, traffic calming, and again, the capital amenities plan. Celebrating and encouraging diversity and inclusion. This is strengthening Indigenous relations and diversity inclusion policy and improving Tecumseh transit, and then maintaining Tecumseh as a safe place to live, where we're looking at the town's emergency response, the fire master plan, community safety equipment, community safety and well-being, and the waste collection. So there's a number of areas under that goal. And then when we look at the final strategic priority, our goals are providing seamless, responsive, and consistent services focusing on the customer experience. So that's a centralized customer service model, which is something I've been working on for the last few years, having those multiple channels available, communication, collaboratively, public engagement. Engaging Team Tecumseh in a vibrant, healthy, and inclusive workplace. And that is where there would be employee-based committees, employee engagement, and people strategies. And then sustaining municipal service delivery to support an exceptional quality of life. And that's where service delivery reviews, monitoring efficiencies, measuring and reporting performance, improving technology, and consistent delivery of essential services. So those are the strategic priority and supporting goals. When we look at next steps this evening, I think looking at approval in principle, final approval on July 25th, the internal communication, external communication, and then implementation following that. So that is the plan, and I turn it back to you, Your Worship.
All right. Thank you very much for the presentation, Janet. If I can indulge council too, there is a report that's on the agenda package, and if I could have a motion to bring that report forward. Deputy Mayor Bichetti moves and supported Councillor Higginson. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Yes, please go ahead. No, she's going to speak on this one.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to speak to the recommendation in the report. As Janice alluded to, as she was working through her presentation, we got down to 2 versions of the vision statement. And I don't know, Christina, if you can put that back up on the screen, please. But we were asking in the report, obviously, that it be received this evening and that council select one of those vision options on the draft so that we can finalize the strategic plan for 2023 to 2026. And then that we ask also that the draft strategic plan be approved in principle so that we can then take this work and turn it into a very visually appealing document to represent council's goals and strategic priorities for the coming term. But we're going to just fly back to that presentation in a second here, and or anywhere that you've got those 2, Christina, that you can find to get council deliberating on the 2 goal statements. Here they are. Or sorry, vision statements. So as Janice had pointed out, we have 2 options there for council's consideration. One is proud of the past, confident in the future. That will be very familiar to you looking over at the mural. A community for everyone. So that speaks to its inclusivity. And then the second one, coming at it from a slightly different perspective, Tecumseh, a sustainable community where everyone shares in the town's prosperity. So those are your 2 options this evening, members of council, and we would appreciate if you could select the winner that will appear in the strategic plan for this term of office. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilor Tonio.
I prefer number one over number two, so that's my choice. So I would make a motion to choose number one,
Well,
or how's it work?
before we
first?
do that, let's
Okay.
give everybody an opportunity to
Sure.
weigh in that. And Councilor Jobin,
Certainly, thank you. Through you, I would suggest and recommend number one. We currently do have it as well on our logo, new logo development, branding. So I for sure number one, as well as we did include like a inclusive community. So it's our entire community. Sorry. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Through your mayor, I also agree with number one. I like that one. Number two is very subjective to interpretation. It could almost be a subset of one, but one is very simple, clear, and kind of Kannapolis takes what we want to do, like Councillor Jobin mentioned in our logo. It's already there.
Anybody else? Councilor Higginson.
Thank you. And through you, I agree. I think number one, I prefer number one over number two. And I was originally thinking that it was missing like a verb, community for everyone, doing what with a community for everyone. But I kind of like that it's missing a verb when I actually reflect on it a little bit, because it gives you the option to decide what that verb is. Are you building a community? Are you designing a community? Are you enjoying a community? You can decide for yourself. So I actually kind of like that one. So I like number one.
I also like the first one. It's concise, catchy. You're not gonna forget it. Yeah, number one.
Well, I have a preference. Number one, this was done after amalgamation when it was bringing three separate communities together as one. And so obviously we brought a really proud pass of the three communities, and now obviously that the three into one is basically, we're confident now as combined three communities in delivering the future. I think that was some of the it was quite a bit of discussions in back in during amalgamation in particular, and to your point, Councillor Dorner, it is one that you remember. It's so it's, for me, it looks like it's going to be unanimous. I know Councillor Hughes is not here, but certainly it looks to me like council's unanimous, and it's not that we're afraid about change. We're not afraid about change, but certainly I think there's something about something that really depicts the three communities coming as the one, and then basically saying, hey, we're confident in the future. So I think it does, the sustainable community and everyone shares in its town's prosperity. I think that's the community, we're confident in our future, and so that everyone delivers, that aspect. So I go with number one. So I'll go back to you, Councillor Tonio, and if you're prepared to make the motion. Moved by Councillor Tonio, supported by Councillor Jobin, that number one is the preferred vision. And so with that, all in favor, opposed, if any, that is carried. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you. Just before we move on from that item, first of all, I want to thank Janice for her patience and all of her expertise and contributions to this process, both with council and with members of the senior management team, and particularly Christina and I, who have led from the staff side. We've really enjoyed working with you, and do appreciate your assistance with this, and hope for other opportunities in the future. And just a word to Christina. Thanks so much for your support in this. Good job. Well done. Always 2 steps ahead of us, and always in the right direction. So awesome. Good job. Thanks very much, everyone. We really look forward to bringing you a very, very pleasant looking finished product at our next council meeting. Thank you.
Please.
And my thanks to everyone for being so involved and engaged in the process. It really was a very smooth process. Doesn't always go that way, but as Marg and Christina, real professional to work with, and everyone was on board with. We didn't always agree with things, but we got I think a very comprehensive strategic plan to move forward. So thank you for the opportunity to work with the town of Tecumseh, Team Tecumseh.
Team Tecumseh. Well, certainly, Janice, on behalf of council, we want to thank you. And I know the sessions, I think more than anything, to keep us marching along, keep us on time and motivated throughout the whole process. So on behalf of council, thank you for being part of this. And I want to extend my thanks to administration as well, and Christina. And again, for us, we had to show up, and the rest was basically we were told to keep things moving along. So anyway, with that, thank you. And looking forward to the finished product. Yeah. Okay, leave it there so I can. All right, members of council, while the first delegation or second delegation is preparing, if I may, we have communications. We have 2 items. If I could have a motion to receive said communication. Councillor Higginson moves, supported Councillor Tonio. We have communications action required. One is the 34th Annual Essex Region Conservation Foundation Golf Tournament. There's a recommendation brought forward that members of council be authorized to attend the 34th Annual Essex Region Conservation Foundation Golf Tournament scheduled for Thursday, July 20th. And in accordance with our education travel policy, subject to 2023 budget funding. Moved by Councillor Antonio, supported Councillor Higginson. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. All right, well, we'll move on to our delegations. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce our local MPP and former councillor of Tecumseh Council, MPP Andrew Dowie, to please come forward, as well as the Associate Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Nina Tangri, will accompany Andrew at the delegation table. Please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, and certainly my sincere privilege to be here in front of you. I think this is the very first time I've been a delegation in person. We did the Zoom back about almost a year ago, but it's really my pleasure to be here and certainly to recognize the hard work and great work that you're doing for the people of Tecumseh. I certainly want to thank you for that. And I'm so pleased to have with me Minister Nina Tangri, the Associate Minister of Housing for the province. And she's just been so gracious to be able to join in on the presentations we'd like to make tonight. I guess, Mr. Tangri, would you like to share a few words?
Well, good evening, everyone. It really is a true pleasure for me to join you all here this evening. And I just want to thank you for letting us come in and do this with you. And thank you for everything that you do for the people, not just the people of Tecumseh, but all of us around Ontario. Thank you for letting us have MPP Andrew Dowie. He's an amazing member of our caucus and works diligently hard and really does bring a strong voice to Queen's Park on your behalf. So thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Tangri.
Well, thank you for coming and welcome to our humble chamber.
It's lovely.
And Andrew, you're always welcome here. This is your home as well.
Absolutely. Though I certainly remain a property taxpayer in Tecumseh, and I will always keep my opinions to myself. Don't worry about that. But actually, you're doing a phenomenal job, and I actually have nothing to share on that front. I thank you for your service to us, and Tecumseh is, in my mind, the best run municipality in the entire province. I'm just so proud to be from here and to be a resident, and certainly appreciate your kind service to us. And with that, I would like to actually start with our presentations. We actually have two long-standing service awards for some incredible individuals around the table, and they're signed by Mr. Steve Clark. We're certainly here on his behalf, and so I'll give the inscription, and then I will name the who they're being awarded to. So on behalf of the Government of Ontario, thank you for your outstanding work in helping build strong communities in Ontario. Congratulations and best wishes for the future, signed by the Honorable Steve Clark. So the first is certainly our esteemed Mayor, His Worship Gary McNamara, for over 25 years of longstanding service to the people of Tecumseh and certainly to the people of Ontario. So thank you, Mayor. And we certainly would like to present it to you in person and get some photos as well. The second is to our esteemed Deputy Mayor, Joe Pichetti, with an equal longstanding service award of 25 years. Thank you so much for your service here, Joe, not only to the current town of Tecumseh and also the former township of Seymour South, and to Mayor McNamara, certainly for the current town of Tecumseh and the former town of Tecumseh. And growing up, seeing both of you in certainly community has been just, I certainly appreciate all your service, and to be able to join you for 8 years was just an incredible privilege. So we'd love to come up and get a few photos.
Wherever you. Oh.
Thank you so much.
Better if you did one-on-one to get some good images. Sure. And then one together. Okay, yes, absolutely.
I was gonna say the rose has to be in there.
Sure. This one here. Here, we'll try the logo. Or, sorry. Yeah, well, we'll see. It's a nice backdrop.
We'll get it right. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, your mayor. I want to thank Mr. Dowie and Associate Minister Nina Tangri and your team. I know you've had a busy day today, and to join us this evening is very special for the mayor and I. So thank you again for coming to present these, and also to our administration, our clerk's department, for those who were responsible to fill out the application to receive this certificate on behalf. I want to thank you guys. Just reflecting, like the mayor mentioned, 25, it's probably 28, 29, same with me. We lose track. We stop counting after 25, and maybe that's why it says after 25 years of long service. Going back, looking at the dates, the first Minister of Education, Municipal Affairs, back when I was elected in 1994, Mr. Dowie is a trivia master, and I'll bet you he'll get this one wrong. Was Minister 1994. Right after Dave Cook was Ed Phillip. A year later, the Conservatives took power, Mike Harris, and it was Tony Clement. So he was the first Minister of Municipal Affairs. So again, it's like a time lapse, in terms of looking at all the years and the ministers that we've dealt with. And again, I've had a privilege of working alongside with Mayor McNamara for this many years in the town of Tecumseh here. And, over those years, I could say maybe 2 or 3 issues or decisions that we disagreed on, or we voted it in separate ways. We work as a team here, and we're very proud of the work that we do here with our council members, and foster the community and do the best that we can. So thank you again for this honor this evening.
All right, thank you for that, Deputy Mayor. Geez, it looks like it was just yesterday. I remember, I remember distinctly running, and there's always an issue, and there's always an issue. And for me, it was a challenge actually from the former mayor, who was actually the Reeve at the time. And it was about an arena. And I remember I was adamant, and I had 2 young boys, and it was difficult when you lose your only rink. And the adjoining municipalities are saying, get your own arena and so forth. So we pushed and pushed and so forth. And I remember coming to a council meeting, sitting right at a delegation table, and the Reeve said, well, if you're so adamant to have an arena, why don't you throw your name in and run for council? Well, guess what? I did. I got elected, and we got an arena. But there's so many great memories over the course of the years, and there's milestones, and then there's obviously some issues that you wish you might have maybe taken a different turn and so forth. But all in all, it's been an experience that I'll always remember, into the future. But I must confess, we've had great councils, we've had great administrations, including the one that's sitting around us today, that help guide us to make right decisions at the right time for the right reason. And but most importantly, family. I'm very fortunate to have a tremendous supporter in my wife, Heather, who's been my confidant, my advisor, the one that's kept me grounded over the course of the years, and my kids, who now, my youngest son has taken the plunge and is now a counselor in a neighboring municipality. And so somebody said that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but I was hoping maybe this one would have fell a little further. But you can't do it alone. And, a tremendous community, and I've had tremendous support over the years. But most importantly, you do it for the right reason, and you do it for the greater good of the community. And we've come a long way. When I was first elected into the old town of Tecumseh, I think our population, look at our planner, was probably around 12,000 or in that neighborhoods. But with the combined now, we're 25, 26,000, and we're right at the cusp of really showing some tremendous growth in the region. But I want to thank Minister Clark. I've gotten to know him even before he was in government. And I must say that he has been a tremendous asset to municipalities as a Minister of Municipal Affairs. He's advanced municipalities in a very proactive proactive way. And because of his experience as a former mayor, as a former CAO, and a former AMO president. And so he gets it. You know, he understands municipalities. So please extend our thanks on behalf of the deputy and certainly all of us around the horseshoe here. Our thanks to Minister Clark and to obviously the Ford government. And we're so pleased to have a member of parliament here. It took us only 90 years to elect a sitting member in government, especially in the PC party. And so now it's now we could say it's history in the making. So looking forward to working with you, Minister Tangri, and I can't thank you enough for coming down for this. It does mean a lot to both of us in that regards, as somebody at Queen's Park that actually says, you know what, they deserve the recognition for the years of service in the community. So thank you. And thank you to administration, and thank you to my colleagues as well, past and certainly present, because obviously you cannot do it alone. Nobody's a pyramid, you know, you need that support at the bottom, right? And so as a team, we can go many places. So thank you. With all that, now you're going to have to guide me, Mr. Clerk, and make sure that I'm there we go. All right, we'll move on to committee minutes. We have the quarter revision of June 27th, the East Town Line drain. In the recommendation that the Tuesday, June 27, 2023, minutes of quarter revision for the East Town Line drain as we're duplicating delivered to the members be adopted. Councillor Higginson and Councillor Jobin. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Oppose, that is carried. We've dealt with the first report. We'll move on to the community and recreation services and CRS 2023-13 Tecumseh Arena flood damage. Madam Director.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to members of council, good evening. I'm here to speak to CRS 2023-13 Tecumseh Arena flood damage. Speaking of the arena, Mr. Mayor. We're recommending that this report be received. And I wanted to just give you a little bit of background and then open to questions. On Sunday, July 2nd, as we all know, there was a significant, if brief, rainfall event here in Tecumseh, certainly in this town campus area, experienced what is considered a 1 to 2 year event. That volume of rain did result in flood damage at the arena due to drainage issues caused by the confluence of both water volume and what we understand to be a partial blockage of the storm drain at the outflow area. This caused water to back up back into the arena, and the water came back up through all of the interior floor drains. That means the floor drains in the lobby area and all of the floor drains throughout the building, including each of the dressing rooms. The water then was about a ½ inch to 1 inch throughout the entire complex. And our staff responded quite quickly and took a series of actions immediately. I wanted to, at this point, actually recognize and thank Dan Walicki, our Manager of Facilities and Energy Management, and the team at the arena for their quick response. It was a part-time staff who was working that Sunday who did reach out to Dan immediately, and Dan's here with us today to help address any questions you might have. But I really think that it's worth our time effort to recognize Dan and the team for their quick response. The damage could have been much worse had they not responded so quickly. So there was a restoration services company basically on site within about an hour or so of the flood occurring, and they were able to witness what was happening as it was happening. So this is a really important piece of the puzzle in that they were not trying to put things together after the fact. They were right in there while things were happening with us and our team. Unfortunately, their reports have indicated that this growth of mold and bacteria should be expected. And due to related health and safety concerns, an immediate remediation of the office area started on July 3rd and has since continued to progress throughout the building. We have been in contact with our insurance companies indicated here in the report. Of course, as it says here, it is too early for us to prepare and serve a formal proof of loss document for insurance purposes. That said, Dan and members of the team have met with the adjuster for an initial walkthrough, and Mr. Auger, Rob, and myself and others will be participating in conversations with the adjuster over the coming weeks. We'll be returning to our next regular meeting of council on July 25th with a more fulsome update. But I do need to report that due to this incident, it is very likely and quite possible that in the very near future, all of the flooring in the building will need to be removed in the impacted areas. Antimicrobial will need to be applied and dried prior to any new flooring be required. As part of our assessment process here, we're undergoing a number of different scenarios in terms of how to consider what a repair, mitigation, and replacement is going to look like over the coming while. And we'll be prepared to report with some of those scenarios at the next meeting of council. We, as I said, are receiving a formal estimate for this urgent removal and remediation work. And a separate tender process will occur for the replacement of the flooring after the removal and remediation work has been completed. So stage one here is to make sure that the toxic moldy materials are removed from the site and the site is properly treated from a health and safety perspective. And then we'll be putting out a tender for replacement of the flooring throughout the facility. As we're seeing here, it is an unauthorized expenditure. And as part of our next report, we'll be recommending that a source of funding to council. And in conversations with Mr. Kitsos and myself and the CAO, we will be recommending an anticipated use of the Arena Lifecycle Reserve Fund while insurance claims reviews and assessments are completed. I think I don't need to tell any of you that the arena is a very busy facility and is scheduled to be a very busy facility the first week of September. And our goal remains committed to those user groups and ensuring that disruption to services and use is not part of the scenarios. So we're doing some serious and deliberate work and thinking here to manage the process. And with that, I'll leave it for any questions that you might have. As I say, Mr. Willick is here with us this evening. Should you require any detailed information at this point? Thank you.
For me, I think you've answered the question. The biggest concern I would have is September when minor hockey and figure skating ramps up in that particular time. So it looks like you got contingency to get things moving quickly so that the least amount of interruption to those user groups is certainly affected. And I would surmise too that flushing of the basins and that's been completed.
Yes, to you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there has been some of that work done already. And tomorrow, I think it's Sewer Tech is coming in with cameras to actually take a look at all of the inflow, outflow drainage within the arena itself. But the basins have all been cleaned out, both in the back of the building and the front of the building. And we've been working with Phil and Mr. Bartnick and his team in order to ensure that that practice and process has occurred in compliance. And yeah, we plan as part of this to be having conversations with user groups to, provide them with assurances in terms of use for September. So we're all quite focused on the first week of September.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Councilor Jobin.
Thank you. And through you, you did address a few of my concerns, but just going forward, is there a maintenance schedule for the storm drains? Or is this something typical? Or do we already have a maintenance program? Just for preventative measures?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. I would say that there had not been a regular maintenance schedule necessarily. It had been on a case-by-case basis, and should there, when there were occurrences like this in the past, certainly I think in 2017 when there was some flooding, in 2019 when there was some flooding, some of those catch basins were examined and some debris and matter was removed. But going forward, we will be working with Mr. Bartnick and his team to ensure that all of our facilities and all of our major parks actually will be part of a regular maintenance program, simply to ensure that, we don't have any other problems out there lurking in our parks and other facilities. Thank you.
Any further questions? Stage, then we need a motion on that report. A question? Move the report. Thank you. Moved by Councilor Donor, Deputy Mayor Buchetti, support. No further questions or comments on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Okay. Next report, financial services are, it's hard to believe that this is coming up already. Mr. Kitsos, the business plan and budget timetable for our 2024 budget cycle.
Yes, I agree with you there. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Yeah, it's upon us already. This report is just recommending our budget timetable for 2024. So we are recommending a council consultation at the regular council meeting on September 12th. Public engagement will occur September 13 to October 13. We will recommend proposing the table budget on November 28th, regular council meeting, with deliberation dates to be determined either in December or early January, and the opportunity to adopt the budget as soon as the regular council meeting on January 23rd.
Pretty straightforward, members of council. Move the recommendation. Councilor Tonio, supported Councilor Jobin. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. Public Works and Engineering, 2023 supply various vehicles and tender award. Mr. Bartnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. I'd like to provide you just a brief overview of the report before you today. So the request for tenders closed on June 8th of 2023 with 3 submissions for the 3 vehicles that we put out. The 1500 extended cab, the 2500 crew cab pickup truck, and the 3500 regular cab and chassis and dump body. The request was posted on the town's bid and tenders platform. In addition, there was an email sent to local dealerships advising them of the town's RFQ that was posted on the platform. We did hear from a number of the local dealerships. They did reach out and advise they were either unable to submit or not interested in providing quotes for this go around. And we also, we updated, just for council awareness, we also updated the RFQ from previous years. So we revised the RFQ to allow for both red trucks and white trucks. We have heard in the past that sometimes it is a little bit more difficult to get the red paint as opposed to the white. So for the 1500 extended cab, we did have 3 dealerships that did close. The Blue Mountain Chrysler, Oxford Dodge, and Amherstburg Chevrolet. The same 3 also bid on the 2500 crew cab pickup truck. And there was only one for the 3500 regular cab and chassis and dump body, and that was the Blue Mountain Chrysler. For financial implications, we did have a total cost of $226,681. We did go over budget by just approximately about $40,000. Funding will come from the Fleet Lifecycle Reserve, And although the tender prices are greater than the budgeted amount, the town is expected to receive significant value for the used vehicles at auction, which will offset some of the cost overrun as these proceeds from sales are credited to the reserve. The recommendations contained in the report, it is recommended that the purchase of one series extended cab regular pickup truck in the amount of $49,320 plus HST plus outfitting costs be awarded to Blue Mountain Chrysler, and that the purchase of one 2500 series crew cab long bed pickup truck in the amount of $66,866 plus HST plus outfitting costs be awarded to Amherstburg Chevrolet. And further, that the purchase of one 3500 series regular cab and chassis and dump body 1.5 ton in the amount of $100,751 plus HST plus outfitting costs be awarded to Blue Mountain Chrysler as an irregular result under the Town of Tecumseh purchasing policy in Schedule A of Bylaw 2021-60. And furthermore, that the annual funding allocation reflecting a total budget requirement of $226,681 with a $39,798 increase to the original allocation be funded from the Fleet Lifecycle Reserve. If you have any questions at this time, I'd be happy to answer them.
I was going to ask a question, but I'm not. The CAO filled me in quite nicely on that. Questions or comments? No. Okay. On the motion, moved by Councilor Tonio, Councilor Dorner, support. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. I guess I do have just one question. I can't help myself, but it has nothing to do with these three. Has there been any thought from especially fleet for light duty, the light duty vehicles, for example, inspectors, those who don't carry big loads and so forth, start looking at hybrid, start greening our fleet? Is there any talk in the future?
Thank you, Your Worship. We have had some discussions internally. I don't think those lighter vehicles are up for renewal at this point. We are very mindful of that. And I just wanted to also add that with the addition of the transportation supervisor in 2024, that was part of the organizational review. One of the initiatives we hope to undertake will be a fleet management strategy as well, and we'll be looking at green vehicles and where they can be implemented and used.
Okay, thank you. And that's the only question I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council has before it this evening for two readings, bylaw 2023-079, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 8518, the town's comprehensive zoning bylaw for those lands in the former township of Sandwich South, south side of County Road 22, west of Sylvester Drive. And if it's also council's desire this evening that said bylaw 23079 also be considered for third reading, together with bylaw 2023-076 being the new procedural bylaw.
Two readings. Deputy Mayor Becchetti move, supported Councilor Higginson. Any questions or comments on those bylaws? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. And then three readings are now in order. Councilor Higginson move and Councilor Jobin support. All in favor? Opposed, that's carried. Any unfinished business? Any new business? All right. Then I need a confirmatory bylaw of the proceedings of this meeting. Councilor Tonio, Councilor Dorner. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Any notices of motion? Hearing none. Our next meeting, members of council, will be Tuesday, July 25th, 2023. We have a 6 p.m. in-camera meeting, followed by our regular council meeting at 7 p.m. So with that, adjournment's in order. Counselor Tonio, Counselor Higginson, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you very much, the members of the audience, for being here so patiently waiting. So with that, this meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.